Business Minutes, and now I get to introduce the Shark Tank Survivors panel. And I'm going to start by introducing actually the moderator. Glenn, work your way on up here, sir, as I read your bio off here real quick. All right, this is Glenn Banton of Operation Supply Drop. He believes in the mantra of serving those who have served us. He's formerly been with OSD since early 2013. Now in the role of CEO, he's focused on the near-term tactics and executing on the OSD mission and the long-term goal of OSD being a cornerstone of the veteran community. So, Glenn, take it away.
Hey, love it. Don't want to do two. Yeah, so number one, this is an honor to be able to sit down with y'all. We have an hour here with a number of folks that could each speak for an hour as a keynote speaker. So real quick, why don't we start at the end with Eli? Let's go 20 seconds. Who you are, where you come from, and then we'll dive into the panel content.
Right on. Thank you. Is this on? There we go. Yeah. There we go. All right, so my name is Eli Crane. I'm the founder and CEO of Bottle Breacher, and I'm a father, a husband, and I'm also a former Navy SEAL.
My name is Matt Griffin, co-founder and CEO of Combat Flip Flops, founded with my former Ranger buddy, Donald Lee. Again, like Eli, I'm a dad, and I like long moonlight walks on the beach.
In combat flip flops, right? Yeah.
Cameron Cruse. I'm co-founder and COO of our Riveter. I'm a mother of two, a proud military spouse, and a SCAD grad.
Great. Lisa Bradley. I am co-founder and CEO of our Riveter. I follow my husband around a lot, still doing that. I'm in the middle of my 9th move in 10 years right now, this week.
My name is David Minkara. I work with Mark Cuban companies, and I have the privilege with working with these amazing entrepreneurs every day.
Awesome. Let's give them a quick hand real quick before we get started. You guys can hold on to that one. I think this one's live too, so we can pass them down. So let's paint a picture here. How many in the room have watched Shark Tank? Okay, and I'm going to presume a lot of you have seen these amazing folks, their stories. Maybe you could start by walking us through, and then we can get their specific details. What is Shark Tank like? Is it live? Do people just kind of come through as a revolving door, or is it filmed over time? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a process, right? Mm-hmm. So the Shark Tank producers are the ones who go and just find all the companies. So they either companies apply via email, or they scout them through trade shows, or through events where they come to a city and announce that they're going to be looking at companies, almost like the American Idol kind of style. Mm-hmm. And then they go through a vetting process, mainly through the Shark Tank producers. So the sharks have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. And then they narrow it down to the best companies, and they bring all these companies for 1 week to the studios in LA. And then the sharks are there from morning to night, and it's pitch after pitch, and each pitch could be from an hour to 2 hours. So what you see on TV is a 5-minute segment. They're there just getting beaten up by the entrepreneurs for several hours, and then you see they package it nicely for you, and that's what you see. And this, in terms of a timeline, let's say they film this in June, the season starts in September. So throughout that time, each shark, after they do a handshake deal to commit to the deal, there's a due diligence process that happens behind the scenes. And if everything goes through smoothly, then the deal is actually, all the legal paperwork is filed. And then the sharks start supporting those companies, make sure that when they air on TV, they maximize the potential of that exposure.
Absolutely. How many of y'all actually knew that's how detailed this was behind the scenes? Unless you've read some of the books or done a little bit of research, it's not something a lot of people know. Cameron and Lisa, why on earth would you want to go on Shark Tank, knowing this is the case, and you've got this long road ahead, and you got to stand in front of some mildly crazy people, depending on what time you hit them in the day. What was really what drove you to make that decision?
I think it was when I sat down. We were trying to decide if we should go for it or not, and I was talking with one of my friends who also started a business, and the first thing he said to me was, when you're scaling a business, you should never say no. And so we kind of took that and decided, let's just go for it. And it was one of the best experiences we've ever had. Just the conversations that you have getting ready to go on national television, pitching your company to 5 of the best business entrepreneurs in our country, you really have to know what you're talking about. So it's the best thing we could have done.
Absolutely. Griff, why on earth did you do this?
It was odd. We didn't apply. I got a call on a Tuesday night from Culver City, California, and I was an entrepreneur. And so, like many of you, I put my kids down to bed, and I went down to the kitchen to get a little bit more work done, because obviously that gets you ahead. And weird number calls through on my phone. It's from Culver City, California. Like, I let it go to voicemail, and then it actually left a voicemail, and I think, like, well, maybe I've got some weird Nigerian uncle that left me a couple $1 million. Like, I could really use that right now. So I hit play, and it was one of the producers, and he said, "My name is Max. I'm a producer on Shark Tank. I'd like you to be on the show." And I IMDb'd him really quick, and like, it was legit. Like, he is a producer on Shark Tank. And I called my business owner, or my business partners immediately, and I go, "Man, I don't want to do it." And they're like, "Are you stupid? You get in front of 11 million people. Like, let's go." And that was it.
Rest is history. Same question, Eli.
Yeah, I think the reason we wanted to go on was, one, for the exposure, obviously, 12 million people. And then also, we were also looking for tactical partners, because a lot of us that come out of the military, and just a lot of people you see go on Shark Tank in general, don't have a business background. So a lot of the times, we're getting fed through a fire hose trying to figure out everything from marketing to accounting to production, and most of us don't really know what we're doing. So you kind of hope that you can get hooked up with a shark that has expertise in the field that you're going into, and they can, send their teams, like Abe and part of the Mark Cuban company's team, to help you, or Kevin O'Leary also has people that help us out as well. And so those were the two biggest things that we were looking for.
That makes sense. So basically, Shark Tank is the public version of going and seeking venture capital. Obviously, we have a bunch of, we did some polls when Daniel was up here, is asking, who's solopreneurs right now trying to build their business. Many of you all were as well. You go on Shark Tank looking for people to fill in those different holes. Was there one shark that any of you were, when you went on this, you're like, I need Mark, or I need Mr. Wonderful, or I need so-and-so, or did you, I know that sometimes the sharks that are not on there as often, was there one that you hoped was there? Can you give us some thought process into that before you walked in the room?
So I read Barbara's book from cover to cover, and she wasn't there.
that's
you
what I was
never know.
asking.
You never know who you're going to get. And so we just had to be prepared and open. And actually, we had a plan to go with a certain shark. And then when we got in there and we got to talking, I think what you have to remember is that they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them for a good strategic partner. So we landed Mark Cuban, and we said yes to Mark Cuban because of the way that he was connecting and resonating with what we were trying to do and our story, and just emotionally. And he was defending some of our decisions to other sharks, and we were like, yeah, what he said. And so, ultimately, we kind of like, as entrepreneurs, I had a plan, and in the, split second, it changed, and I think you have to be open and ready for that change.
Absolutely. Other guys want to add anything to that?
So we're in the business of making stuff in war zones, and for us, for every product that we sell, we put a girl in school for a day in Afghanistan. And so for us to make a difference, it's a volume game. Mm-hmm. So we went in there with the idea of, like, Lori is our target. Like, she is it. She's on QVC. She can move weight. She can make massive change for a lot of people all over the world. And then we said, okay, who's next? And then, okay, Damon. Branding guy. He's in the fashion and lifestyle world. He's worked with shoe companies before. He would be a good mark for us. And then Kevin. If you've watched the episode, we weren't gunning for Kevin directly. Hergovec was a wild card. We didn't know how he would go. We think he would identify with our mission because he was from a war-torn region and came here to the U.S. and made it. And then we'd never even thought about, to be honest, working with Mark. And then it changed. We got Mark, Damon, and Lori. So.
Awesome. So when you walked into these particular rooms, when you look at things from veterans and spouses, how much were you leaning on that as part of your story? And I think a lot of people might have this question, and we see this a lot within our organization. How do you wear it on your shoulder? Is that a wild card in your back pocket? Was that something you didn't even consider? What was? I know it's very clearly a part of y'all's story.
Yeah, I think the thing about being military spouses is not a lot of people know what it is to be a military spouse or the things that you go through. And I think it's really hard for us to feel like when you're giving the overview of the company, saying all the things that military spouses go through, because it's not really us. You know, we want the company to represent action and change. And so to be constantly explaining first the military spouse and what they go through, that's really what the Sharks, you know, some of the things that they said in there is, we couldn't do what you guys do, and then beyond that, just the company of manufacturing from across the country. A lot of people have a hard time manufacturing in one location. And so I thought it was really great for them to really resonate with what we were doing and understood the story behind the business. And that's, I think you have to make your business match your lifestyle first, and that's when it can be successful.
Absolutely.
Right, I think for us, we definitely wear that veteran lapel on our sleeve for a couple different reasons. One is because regardless of what your political affiliation is, we've noticed that most Americans really enjoy supporting veteran-owned brands, so that's important. The second reason we wear it on our sleeve, especially when we went and pitched in the Shark Tank, was because I'm sure, just as everybody in this panel has learned, I learned that the most important part about being a successful entrepreneur is being able to deal with adversity, right, and being resilient. And so when you come from the SEAL teams, me and Griff here both have a background in special forces. I mean, that is what makes the best operators in the world, is just being resilient. It's not that you're the strongest guy, the fastest guy, the smartest guy. I mean, you need to be all those things, but you need to be extremely resilient. And so I wanted the Sharks to understand that, hey, you know, we are very good at dealing with adversity. We're very good at, you know, rallying and fixing problems. And so, you know, whether we were in the Shark Tank or even now, we make sure that everybody knows that we're a veteran-owned company.
Absolutely. And Abe, I mean, obviously Mark is a huge supporter of veterans, a huge supporter of the military. Is that something that you guys proactively, even as kind of a separate track, look and say, all right, this is an interesting idea, but it's run by a veteran, so we're going to dig a little bit deeper because of those kind of intangibles that follow behind?
I don't think he necessarily has that in mind. I think it's just that the veteran entrepreneurs just have, as you said, that resilience about them, right? And I think the more Mark invests in Shark Tank, in veteran-owned companies, the more he's recognizing how unique you guys are. The resilience is key. Disciplines is another one. Adapting to being resilient to change. All of these characteristics, from what I've seen, because Mark has invested in 70 companies throughout his Shark Tank experience, and definitely the veteran-owned companies stand out.
Absolutely.
It's obvious, right? And that's why I'm stage here, and I'm not on stage with just some of our regular companies, right? But it is, and like I said, it's because of what they stand for, and them as being entrepreneurs, and not specifically them being, because they're veteran-owned, Mark is investing in them, but it's because of what they've accomplished as entrepreneurs, and the fact that they are veterans, that's just a bonus.
Yep, cherry on top, love it. So just, again, kind of just trying to walk everybody through this. So I know when y'all are on, I've seen your episodes a few times, and obviously only get that little picture of it, but you know, supply chain, logistics, scale was always an issue. You guys aren't a tech company making, you know, a software product that can be outsourced somewhere. You're making physical products that need to be created, need to be sourced, and then often need to be shipped somewhere. Speaking to the room out here and other folks that have that type of business, when did you realize that was an issue, which was probably pretty early on, but how did you determine the right way to accomplish that even before you went on Shark Tank?
There's a line that we heard is amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. If you can have the greatest product in the world, but if you can't move it to your customer at a fair value, it's just not going to go anywhere. And so we've had that mantra ever since we had our first couple of failures where, you know, we sold 4,000 pair of flip-flops, and then the factory went under. And then we bought another 4,000 pair of raw materials, and then that factory went under. And then we had to, you know, ship the stuff to my house and build a guerrilla flip-flop factory in my garage, and we built our first 4,000 pair 20 feet behind my house. to deliver to customers. And then we really realized at that point, our problem wasn't the manufacturing of the product. Our problem was moving the materials in between the different places to get them manufactured. And so then we've finally moved our design, or our ability to manufacture our product is designed around the constraint of it all has to be locally sourced. And ever since we made that criteria as a business, as logisticians, our supply chain has really smoothed itself out over the past 4 years.
I think with us, so ours is a flexible mobile manufacturing network all over the country with military spouses making parts and pieces so they can have mobile flexible income. And so from the beginning, we knew that, like you were saying, logistics is, next to cash, king. But we knew that we needed to make a product that could, from the source, from the design, from the tech pack, be something that fit the business model. So we can't go and make a bag with all the, not that we would want to, but like all of the bling and the different parts, and, we don't make whole leather bags because that doesn't fit our business model. So we need to work within the constraints that we have found this beautiful partnership between our remote manufacturing network and this empowerment for military spouses, and make that work for us, not against us. So anytime that you can set up your product to, be successful from supply chain to, the customer receiving it, that's a win-win, and you always have to think about that.
It's funny that you brought up Frederick Smith, because that was actually the idea behind the company. Is we were friends and couldn't find employment back in 2011, and one day I had read a paper about how he wrote a paper about the hub and spoke system and kind of redefined the logistics industry, and someone told him it wouldn't work. And it was kind of the same thing in my case. I told someone about our business idea and how we were going to have a remote manufacturing network, kind of like the hub and spoke system, where they're producing parts and pieces for a handbag line, and they told me that it was never going to work. It was going to be too expensive. And so I think a lot of what you do is, as veterans and military spouses, is failure is not an option. You're going to prove that you can do it. And also the support of, one of the big things about being a Mark Cuban company is the other veteran companies. We've very much relied on each other for advice along the way, and it's been one of the best parts about having Mark as our investor.
Awesome. Okay.
For us, it's interesting. A lot of people, when they watch the Shark Tank, you guys see a couple people go on TV and, strike a deal, and then a lot of you, God bless you all, you get on your phones or your PCs or whatever, and you order the products, and it's phenomenal. I can remember having our airing party, all of our staff and our family there, and it was kind of chaotic, but it was awesome at the same time. We found out that before the show even aired on the West Coast, and we're in Tucson, when it aired on the East Coast, minutes into the airing, our website crashed hard, and we couldn't get anybody on the phone to fix it. And I was like, oh crap, this is a big deal. But thankfully we had redundancy built into the operation. We had Etsy.com that really carried the day for us, and it was so cool just watching, our phones blow up with sale. And within the first week, we had done $1 million in sales, which just blew me away. And I don't even know what that number would have been had our website not crashed hard for 3 days. But when you go from, being a mom and pop like all of us were, I think, prior to Shark Tank, and when you're making these out of your kitchen or your garage or wherever you're making them, and then you go and you get that 12 million people seeing your product, and then, trying to help you out and support your company, you get hot water really quick. And Abe can probably tell you better than anybody. Mark probably sent you out there to find out what we were doing in Tucson, Arizona, but we were kind of famous for having a back order. We had like a huge back order. It was like 3 months. They even did a Beyond the Tank and an update, around our back order problem. And that's something it's when you go from making 150 units a day to having to make 15,000 units a day, and you're not calling China and saying, hey, we need, more product, you're actually making them yourselves. That stuff doesn't happen overnight. And I got to point the finger at myself, because had I done a better job as a leader, and had I thought outside the box a little bit more and realized where our biggest pain points were, I think we could have fixed the problem a lot quicker than we did. But it was just one of those things. You had 30 people at least looking at the problem, trying to figure out how do we go faster. Nothing's really working, and then you have this epiphany, like, why the hell weren't we doing that? the entire time. And we, thankfully, the blessing and the great thing about it is if you go through something like that as a company, where you overcome some major adversity like that as a company, it just makes you so much stronger. And now, like when we have, airings on this show or that magazine or whatever, it's really not a big deal because we've gone through so much more difficult, after our first initial Shark Tank airing.
Absolutely. Abe, kind of to his point, I mean, you guys kind of have a science, I'm sure, to a degree of you bring on a company, especially some sort of manufacturer created good, you need to help with logistics and supply chain. How much hands-on approach does Smart Cuban companies give them? I mean, are you planting people there? Are you saying, here's some money and network and go? Like, what part of that range is actually happening?
We try to be as hands-on as needed. So, we're always in communication with the companies, and based on the problems, we agree on what are their needs and what areas they need help with, and that's what we provide. So we work together on solving those problems and identifying how much of our help is needed. So we're not going to just force ourselves and say, hey, this is how you're going to do it. We work together on solving the problem. So like in Eli's case, we did visit just kind of to have an overall assessment and see what areas we can help. And one of the more immediate, I think, areas that we helped them was accounting, and that really was very helpful, just working on throughout the whole process, because that's one of the services we provide. And just what I want to say is also congratulate all the companies for, even with the bottle breacher, as much as they had all the exposure and all the traffic, they just stuck to their vision and goal, right? They didn't go to China. They stuck to Made in USA. They stuck to employing veterans and to their original business model. And they figured out a way to grow. And if they would have gone the China route, they wouldn't be here right now. So they've done it. They've grown. They've overcome. And I mean, their growth is phenomenal. Same as all the other companies. Same way they've been able to solve problems, and especially, in the Riverter case, employing spouses, and that number is growing every day. And with combat, I mean, you guys have a great cause, and you just have to go to their website, Combat Flip Flops, and see what they're doing. Just amazing stuff. So back to answer your question, it's a variety of things, and it's always evolving. So let's say the immediate thing what we do is support with a website, and we do a much better job now. So we haven't had a website crash since the bottle breacher. But that's the most immediate one, and then things go from accounting to sales. Sales is one of the things we try to help in partnerships. Like, for example, if they need someone at Amazon, we can find someone at Amazon to help them with the area needed, or other kinds of partnership that help grow sales.
Absolutely. That's that theme of DFQ, don't F and quit. I mean, that's what I see here constantly. So it's absolutely fantastic. So I think we now have a kind of a good walkthrough of as deep as we can really get before getting deep, really into the weeds with the experience. So kind of diving a little bit deeper in the individual entrepreneurial experience. A lot of these are actually my personal questions, and I've asked some of y'all as well to chime in, and hopefully have some time for Q&A. But before you went on Shark Tank and you start noticing you're going to need investment to grow, some sort of growth capital, and a lot of that still revolves around things like, again, back to logistics, sales, supply chain. Who is the person? Like, who is that next person beyond mom and pop shop where you're like, oh crap, I need a person that does X? And then the follow-on to that is, how did you even try to find them? Or how did you know what to look for?
So I'll go with this one because I would have to say for us, capital was almost a no-go. Hey, I need to borrow $100,000 to make flip-flops in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's not even a start. I must have pitched 50 or 60 times and no, uniformly. And we just had to go another route. We knew it was going to have to be grassroots. We were going to stick to our model of come up with a new product, pre-sell it, customers would buy it, we'd build it, we'd deliver it, just transparent start to finish, and they were just willing to wait for the product. When we actually did need cash, we went to our veteran network. People knew who we were, where we came from, what we were capable of doing, and I found an academy grad from the 80s, and she was doing well. She was at Microsoft, and I reached out to her and I said, hey, I know you've bought a lot of our products, you're a friend, we're looking for a little bit of capital because we want to start a new product line. Like, I need $10,000. And she goes, okay, just work up the documents and I'll be an angel investor in your company. And it worked like that. And we found one other guy to do that for us as well. So we just went small chunks of angel cash. And the point is, as you're going to get any kind of investment, is equity is the most expensive like form of raising cash. Like, avoid it at all costs. If you're going to borrow money from somebody and give them a portion of your company, borrow only what you need, or maybe even not enough for what you need, and just make up the rest in sales, because giving away that equity and your decision-making control in your company is just really expensive.
I would say for us too, it was always a dance between production and sales. So we were completely self-funded from the beginning, which means we sold 2 bags to sell 5 bags, and 5 to 10, and 10 to 20. And there was always that, all right, we're going to feed sales a bunch of product, let's go. And sales starts doing really good. Then we're like, oh God, we need more operators. And so there's always this fine line between, the pendulum swinging between sales and production. And, had it not been for Shark Tank, we were on this nice, easy path of self-funded growth. And I don't know when we would have run into the needing capital, but, once Shark Tank happened, and once that ultimate question of how do you scale this, what's the future of our Riveter, how do you apply it on a much larger scale, started to kind of percolate between Lisa and I and some of our teammates, we realized that there's something huge here, and we need to be able to really invest in it and give it all that we can to make sure that every military spouse and every opportunity that we can provide comes to fruition. So one of the most difficult things, though, is always the dance between production and sales, and hiring, a little bit at a time on both sides.
Yeah, for us, I think the first thing that we needed help in production. My wife, she's my business partner, and she's just a rock star. She had a couple successful online businesses before she agreed to help me out with Bottle Breacher. And like many women out there, my wife is phenomenal at multitasking, where I kind of like stay in a little box and then I fix that box and then I move over to the next box. And so for that reason, I think I needed help with production and manufacturing a lot quicker than my wife did. She was selling them a lot faster than we could make them. And so the first employee that we were living in base housing in San Diego at the time, and the first guy that we brought on was my next door neighbor, and I brought him on to help me polish bullets. Yeah. And so then it just grew into guys that I was working with in the Navy that could kind of moonlight, work during the day, their Navy job, and then come over and help me in the evening. And we bootstrapped it, and we grew organically for the first 2 years. And it's pretty cool because when we made our Shark Tank video, we actually did a time lapse of like the guys that would check in throughout the day. And I mean, we had a 1-car garage that we started this business out of, and there were a lot of times there were 6 people working in that 1-car garage. And I mean, there were 4 laser engravers, a polishing wheel. We had a generator because we didn't have enough power in base housing to run everything we had. I mean, it was crazy, but that's what I love about it too. And I think that's the reason it appeals to me now, is just because it is so challenging to, start up.
Absolutely.
We had kind of the same startup. We started in an attic, and it was so cold that the first $2,500 we put into the company was actually insulation, because I was working in snow gear, and we had a propane heater, and I started my pants on fire. That's when we decided we needed to insulate the attic. Yeah. So the first money we put into the company wasn't even into the company. It was just into making sure we didn't freeze to death.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
And look where you are now.
Look where now.
So invest in infrastructure. I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
I think one of the difficult parts when you first start your business is realizing when you become your own bottleneck. Mm-hmm. And one of the most expensive aspects of a company is personnel. And that was one of the most difficult parts for us, is when to branch off and grow, and being okay enough with risk. That's one of the things that's the most difficult, is knowing that you have employees that you need to pay every day. Yeah. And waking up every morning to make sure that you can provide and those opportunities it's important.
Yeah, it's not just food on your table, it's
Right.
food on somebody else's table with their kids that you have to worry about. I mean, dive into that a little bit more. I mean, what the decision, that you've both sat down probably with those talking about hiring that next person, and maybe it's somebody as a contractor, that friend that's been putting in, blood and sweat for a bit.
Right.
What does that look like? What's the decision to say, hey, we're going to hire this person for this thing?
Right. Well, it probably happened when we started out, and because there was only 2 of us, I was also sewing, and it was the first time that I sewed a pocket upside down, and I sold it to a gal, and we were at a trade show because you wear many hats in the beginning. So we were selling, sewing, doing business, and she came up at the trade show, and she's like, I love this handbag, but the pocket's upside down. I'm having a hard time keeping things into it. And that's when I got fired from that job and moved over to the business, and that was probably the best thing for us, is when we really took the divide of she took manufacturing and I took kind of the business side. But our first employee is still with us today, and I think it's the why, not necessarily the what. There's everyone on our company wakes up every day and is working towards a greater cause beyond themselves. And the growth after Shark Tank was unbelievable. We can't just call up China and order 4,000 more American handmade bags. We're dealing with like a 3-dimensional chess game where we're ordering parts and pieces from military spouses across the country. And so our first hires were in manufacturing, and that's the foundation of the company, is to be able to have product to sell. And so that was kind of our first big hires.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, you mentioned kind of that larger purpose. I mean, everybody hopefully wakes up in the morning and has what that, has that larger purpose, that thing they serve that's beyond them. Griff, what's that for you? What does that look like?
It's tough on a daily basis because you wake up at 5 in the morning, you journal for your 10 or 15 minutes, try to get a workout in, answer your emails before everybody else gets in the office, so that way all the tasks they need for the day are waiting for them. Then you just go through your tasks through the day, and like I got to tell you, most days I never see the impact that we get to make. But I'll never forget, we were so after Shark Tank happened, we aired in February. And I did customer service through the end of March. I answered tens of thousands of emails, like hours per day. And then it just used to just cycling through stuff. And all of a sudden, this one email pops up from our schools, and it's a whole bunch of little girls in Afghanistan holding up little white pieces of paper on a sign that says, "Thank you, Combat Flip-Flops, for your generosity." And tears, showed it to my wife, tears, to business partners, everybody. They were just super thankful. And from there, we were bringing in just pallets and pallets and pallets into our garage, and they would come in these big pallets, and we inventory and break them down and then ship them all back out. And at one point, we were shipping $20,000 an hour in product. It was just out the door, just filling USPS trucks. But it's an uninsulated, windowless garage. I had a electric heater with tin foil, ducting, toward my desk in the winter. And and in the summer, the place is a sweat box, and so we'd be in there, it'd be 95 degrees, and there'd be a big pile of boxes sitting outside the door, and we're just praying it wouldn't rain before the truck came and picked them up, and we'd just look over at those boxes, the entire team, and that's 5 years of school for little girls. And everybody's, high fives, and then we drink White Russians, and then, get after it the next day.
Yeah, what about you, Eli?
Yeah, I just want to say something about these other 2 companies up here. We do something that a lot of people won't do. We actually manufacture our products in the USA, and I found that is pretty difficult to do if you do a good job of doing it. Well, these guys, what they're doing is actually a lot harder than what we do, and I just want to, congratulate these guys. If you guys aren't aware and familiar with what Combat Flip-Flops and doing and our Riveter, I love what they're doing. I love their mission, and that's one thing that I've noticed. How many military entrepreneurs are in the room out here? Awesome. This is something that should be intrinsic to you guys. I hope that you're taking it on board, because I've noticed that a lot of military families, military veterans, if you're not doing something bigger than yourself, if you're not serving in some capacity, it doesn't matter how successful your business is, how much stuff you're selling, you will not be happy and you won't be fulfilled. And these guys over here probably do a better job of it than anybody that, and I've been watching Shark Tank like the rest of you guys for a long time, and I've met with a lot of people, but these guys I'm always blown away and impressed by. So good job on that, guys.
Thank you, Eli. So sweet.
Yeah, no. And the other thing, I'm getting all weepy over here. we got to go get some White Russians. But no, I think, and for us, that's one thing that has been so cool about what we get to do at Bottle Breacher, because I've learned, I tell people all the time, I never thought getting out of the SEAL teams that I would be excited to go to work. I thought I was just going to get one of the regular jobs I saw my buddies getting. And realizing that I could continue to serve my brothers and sisters, the people in this room, whether it's donating gifts, donating, to Gold Star families, whatever it may be, I'm actually more fulfilled now than I was back then, and it just blows me away. And that's one of the things, these guys are talking about how hard it is, just to start up and then break that hump and be paying yourself and other employees, that a lot of times you're going to need that extra little piece of motivation. Just starting a company won't be enough anymore, just because it's going to be so incredibly difficult. And if you can give yourself, some little extra piece of motivation, like Griff, are you kidding me? Hey, if we make these flip-flops, these little girls in Afghanistan are going to get to go to school. I mean, can you imagine how much motivational power that has for this guy and his team? And it's just like our Riveter, taking care of military spouses all over the country. It's phenomenal. I mean, military spouses, I know most of you guys are military spouses, but I'm probably more impressed with military spouses than anybody I've ever been around, because most of you guys have to take care of everything from the kids to the bills to, making sure the maintenance on the house is done, and then running your businesses. It's almost sadistic what you guys are doing. They almost shouldn't allow you guys, military spouses, to do it. But anyway, kind of rambling on, but yeah,
Hey,
pretty awesome.
all relevant and impactful for sure. Did you want to add anything beyond his wonderful words? Yeah, no, I can speak from, I guess I'm a customer of all yours, and I think what drew me from the beginning is it's the story. I mean, it's really the why. I mean, I think that's been a theme with everybody who's up here speaking. It's not the what. I mean, Daniel talked, he's not a t-shirt company. He's talking about building a community of patriots, and then developing product lines with that as you go down. It's same thing up here. It's incredible, and I'm sure, even within the portfolio of Mark Cuban companies, again, it's the story, it's the why, it's the what gets everybody up in the morning that really drives the long term. So I guess one more question before hopefully we can get a little bit of Q&A here with these awesome folks. Leading up to Shark Tank, I'm going to presume some of these folks out here are going to apply to be on it. What is the just one thing you would have as a word of advice before going on and getting prepared to hopefully be successful in front of the Sharks? Let's start at the end and work back.
All right. I would say if you want to get on the show, the Shark Tank, obviously you're going to have a unique business. You're gonna need to be profitable unless you can just really tug on their heartstrings. But like I said earlier, I think one of the most important things, and we were very strategic in implementing this in our pitch, is talking about how resilient you are and talking about how you deal with failure. We brought up 2 specific instances during our pitch. I don't know I think you hear both of them when the episode actually aired, but we talked about how the first time I went to SEAL training, I failed out of SEAL training. And the first time my wife applied to get into Eller Business College at the University of Arizona, she wasn't successful doing it. And because we wanted the Sharks, they've built businesses and businesses and businesses. They know how difficult it is. And one of the things that they're really looking for is not only that you're profitable, but they want to know when things get difficult, where are you going to end up? Are you going to run for the hills? Are you going to burn up in the adversity? Or are you going to stick, and are you going to fight? And so I think if anybody out here does want to get on the Shark Tank, I think it's very important that you have examples of resiliency in your own personal life.
I'll have to say, remember that it's the Shark Tank, not the entrepreneur tank. The show's not about you. And just being really mechanical about it is, if you time the responses from the entrepreneurs, you have to get out and get your point across to 11 million Americans in less than 6 seconds. That's it. You got to be short and to the point and entertaining and energetic. When they gave me my application packet to fill out, there's obviously 8 or 9 lines per response. I sat at my desk at night with a 6-pack of beer, and I might have made it to the end of line 2 on each one, because I was just really direct and to the point. And I sent it in. They go, "This is great. We love it. Yeah, we'll cut the video for you. Don't even worry about it." And I would say, just remember that it's the Shark Tank, not the entrepreneur tank. entertaining, be short, to the point, get your message across. You only have one shot to do this. Make it right.
I would say let the work speak for itself. So I know that one thing that really tipped the scales for Lisa and I when we were there is by the time we had filmed, we had already were expected to do like over 300,000 in sales for that year, and that was really our version of proving that, you know, we've been doing this for a couple of years. We don't necessarily know what we're doing, but we can handle it. Like Eli was saying, the resiliency and, you know, being able to adapt and move forward and just take it as it comes. And I would say let the work speak for itself. I mean, don't overdo it, be brief, and just do you.
Yeah.
I'd say start in a garage, because that's what we all did. No, I would say when you're applying, it's the human element behind it. It's first entertainment, because they're trying to fill a television spot. So it's not just like you're pitching to normal investors, you're also pitching to get on TV. So I think putting your story into it, that is what they don't want to. You do have to have a profitable business and a great product, but also tell your story behind it. And I think that's the reason why veterans are so good at business also, is because why were you in the military? It was for a greater cause. And so to be kind of like Eli was saying, to be successful and wake up every day happy in what you're doing, it needs to meet your personality and what you're doing. And so make sure that you can speak to that and it fills you. I guess my best advice.
It's good advice. Yeah. And Abe, I mean, shoot, you've got the man's ear. What is that one thing that everybody here? I mean, and again, it's not just for Shark Tank. It's wisdom for going out and seeking investment. Let's think about it that way too. What's the one thing you can leave these folks with?
If you start in the garage, make sure you have a heater, right?
There you go.
And you don't burn yourself.
Yeah, fire code.
No, but I think the most important thing, when you're in front of the sharks or any investor, you have to know your numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're making 10,000 a year or making $1 million a year or more. You have to know the numbers. If they ask you about sales, they ask you about profits, they ask you about how many customers you have, what are your sales channels, everything about manufacturing, getting the product, logistics, you have to know your numbers. And if you notice on the show, you can have the best presentation, a great cause, but when they ask you about your numbers and you don't know or don't have a specific answer, that's where you fail. So you have to know everything about your business as an entrepreneur, so always be prepared.
Be prepared, love it. Yeah, so evaluation is a whole nother fun thing to go down. Do we have some time for some Q&A? Is that, I don't know if that's my decision or who's going to hand it around. Yes,
you have time.
Awesome. Questions, raise your hand, and we got the roving mic again.
How you doing? Senator Brown, Military Expansion Network. One of the questions I have, and thank you to my neighbor brother there, retired former myself, yours, but I want to say is, talking about trying to adapt and overcome, when you come across adversity and really thinking about the change process and how to really change that, someone on the panel just kind of tell me, how fast do you actually have to move? Because some people move slow and some people move fast. So talk about the change process and how you have to attack that when you actually feel with adversity for your company.
Well, I think there's a couple things that you can look at and a couple things you can remember. One of the first things they taught us in the SEAL teams was that a good decision now is better than a great decision later, right? And what they meant is that a lot of times you'll have a difficult problem ahead of you, and you'll get the smartest guys in the room, and they'll want to sit around a table and write it up on, the board and, do a bunch of analytics on it. And then you'll have somebody that's like, hey, let's take this tire and take it over there. And, sometimes a good decision now is better than a great decision later, because by the time you make that great decision, you've already missed your window. And so that only applies, when things are time sensitive, but that's one of the best things I think one of the best things you can utilize when you're trying to figure out how are we going to solve this problem.
So basically what you're saying is you can drag your way to not being successful by taking too much time.
Yeah, that's one of the best. Matter of fact, when Kevin O'Leary came down to Tucson, when we were right in the middle of our back order, I'll never forget one of the most profound things he ever said to me. He told me in my office, he's like, you know what, Eli, you guys are about to miss your window. And it wasn't him trying to be a jerk. I know people think he's such a jerk by seeing him on TV, but he's actually a phenomenal guy. And he knew it. He knew that we had a rock star product. We had the ability to just go out and crush it in the market, but because we could not produce and because customers were getting upset and actually emailing him and Mark, somehow they found their private emails, he was like, hey man, this is all great. These are good problems to have, but if you don't solve it quickly, you're about to miss your window.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Yeah, brother.
There was another one over here?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Jessica, former Army, current Air Force, also military spouse. Thank you all, you're amazing. I don't need to gas your heads up anymore, I know you know it's great. My question is about selecting your teams. Thank you. What are some tips you can give those of us who are in the process of building out our teams to grow and expand our businesses? What are some ways that you found the people that you chose to work with you? I know some of you have the luxury of being close before you started your businesses and you work with your spouses, but beyond family, how do you find those people?
Is Lisa Z still in the room? She's our marketing manager. Hey, this girl volunteered for a month before she got a job. No, and that really gave us the opportunity, and also working with, it gave us the opportunity to get to know each other, know that this is right for you, this is right for me. And so I think that, you hire slow. So take it slow. Although when you get to that point where you make the decision to make the hire, oh my God, we're drowning, we need a marketing manager, or we need, a social media community manager. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I can't do Twitter at 12 a.m. in the morning. I can't do this anymore. As much as you want to pull that trigger and hire the first person that you interview, or the second or the third on the second or third iteration, slow it down, because once you make that decision, you are business married, and a bad hire can cost the entire team in a lot of different ways. So I would say, slow. Very methodical and slowly.
We have company values as well, so that we list. After you come onto the team, and that's really important, as well as just making sure that they fit with what the company stands for. And
They have to fit the why.
they have to fit the why for our company.
Eric Hadley with Goucher 6 Coffee Company. Question I have, being in the startup myself, what is some advice that you would give for somebody in the beginning with the work-life balance, the different stages, in the beginning, maybe the middle of the road, and where you guys are now?
Say that into the microphone.
It never gets easier.
You just get better. That's it. It never gets easier. You just get better. The work doesn't stop. It doesn't slow down. But as far as work-life balance goes, I'll tell you that there becomes a point where you have to be aware enough to understand your point of diminishing returns. And there is a point where you go, you know what? I haven't been creative in 3 weeks. I need to go out and I need to go for a mountain bike ride for 4 hours. I know it's probably not the right thing to do in the middle of the day. And chances are your staff is staring at you and they're going, you need to go on a mountain bike ride for 4 hours, right? And so just understand, the work-life balance, you're going to figure it out. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where you feel really confident in hiring good people that share your values. You've done enough. They're taking the workload off. And you feel confident in their ability to succeed without you being there. And that's slowly over time, I'm talking years, it's going to get you to the point to where you're working a reasonable hour. You get to take vacations, and you're not fearful that your business is going to fall apart. And it just takes time. That's it.
Yeah, I think you have to be a special type of person. I think there is no balance. So you have to be a person that likes that and fiends off of it and almost loves problems. Actually, something that Griff said to me is, as the CEO, you actually start to become a person that's just solving problems. And your ability to tell that to your employees and then have a way for them for others to reach that same problem solving that you went through is a big part of what he does on a day-to-day basis as a CEO. But it's just knowing that you're not going to have balance. I do lunges when I put my daughter to sleep at night. So that's when my workout, you kind of duel it. And so you just know that you are going to live and breathe this. And so I think that you have to enjoy it.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
And can I say that you have a really cool truck? I saw it in the
Yeah.
garage. It's very intense, and I like it.
Hey, one thing I want to say about that real quick is, do you have a day job while you're starting your business up?
I got laid off last year from the oil industry and pretty much found myself 7 months without a job. Keeping the lights on, taking care of my son. Pretty much used up all my savings. So, with that, you just get to that point where, for me, it was the first time I had to tap into my retirement. One of those, I couldn't use my retirement just to keep the lights on. At that point, I wanted to do something with purpose. I wanted to, if I was going to use my retirement, I wanted to do good with it. And that's where I found myself.
No, right on, man. The reason I ask is because I'm a big believer in organic growth, and I'm a real big believer in keeping that day job and keeping the bills paid and food on the table and just busting your ass late at night, early into the morning, and on weekends, and just really sacrificing so that you can get that side hustle up and going. And I think a lot of people nowadays in a society where everything's about speed, we have very little patience. One of the first things people do right off the bat is, I've got an idea, I've got a business plan, let me go get investors. And I'm not trying to knock that at all. I mean, there's pros and cons to both ways, but I prefer the bootstrap, grow organic, work a day job, pay the bills, put food on the table, and learn your business, as fast as you can digest it. And I think it frees up a lot more people out here to do something like that, because it's pretty hard, to go out there and have such a phenomenal idea and convince, an investor with zero to no sales, hey, invest in this. And that's why one of the reasons I love the just growing organic model.
Yeah, I think for me it was baptism by fire.
Yeah.
Question for large companies. We're big sponsors of the Bunker Labs. As you know, we're building our own accelerator in Philadelphia here next year. What could large companies do in the veteran and military community entrepreneur space that would benefit y'all? Because I think obviously a lot of companies have put out veteran or military community hiring numbers, and they've run with that. But this is kind of a new place. It almost should be like the next place. Like, if you can't employ them, then how do you support, partner employers and entrepreneurs and things like that? So what advice would you have for large companies to help y'all in your efforts?
I think you already know the answer to this one, but you make informed marketing purchasing decisions. In large corporations, there's a lot of dollars that get thrown out to put stuff on tables or in trade shows or company gifts or holiday gifts, and somebody crushes a great sales week or a sales month, like, go buy them an Riveter bag. That's going to be a lot more meaningful. You get a team that does great things, go buy a bottle breacher. Large corporations can support veteran-owned small businesses through money they're going to spend anyway, just making an informed decision.
Hi, Emily Burke from Burke Does. So starting a business is risky. Starting a business that requires inventory adds an additional layer of risk. Starting a business and branching into brick and mortar retail adds an additional layer of risk. Can you speak to the decision to or not to branch into brick and mortar, especially when, as a military spouse, you have the constant moves to consider?
That's a great question.
It happened very organically. So, on the inventory front, we started the whole business with a custom business model so that you could come in, I don't know if you guys know, way back in the day, you could choose your leather, choose your canvas and your liner, and we get the money up front, and then we'll make your bag. So that helped us bridge the inventory gap. Obviously, there's incredible platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all that can also do that. And then the brick and mortar thing, it was to get out of the garage. My husband was so sick of having 6 women in his garage. No, the parking just got insane at our house. And so the brick and mortar was actually a combination of finding a home for our centralized, assembly shop, if you want to call it, at the time. And we realized, oh my God, we could open the door and show people what we're doing, and they could walk in and buy too. So it was all kind of funded through the manufacturing side, but then we realized that there's a sales opportunity built in. So we opened the doors, and we hired Colleen. I don't know if anybody knows Colleen, and she's still with us. And it was just an incredible opportunity that kind of we grabbed it, and it has just kept growing with us.
I mean, as military spouses, you always kind of have that fear of, am I going to move? And we just looped that into our business model, and instead of it being a hindrance to us, it was actually the foundation of our company. I mean, I was very fortunate to have a business partner that was going to be staying in one location for the foreseeable future. We've been apart longer than we've been together. So we became a national company right off the bat. And so it was those tools that we use on a day-to-day basis, Office 365 or Zoom or Slack or whatever you guys are using, that allow us to run our company from across the country, even though we're moving all the time. Thank you, husband.
Yeah, one more thing about that question. I think if you're a consumer product, these days you got to make sure that your online presence is optimized, right? Once you've mastered that channel in all its forms, it could be your web, it could be converting social media, it could be tapping into Amazon or even other platforms like eBay, whatever it is that's the right niche for your customer. If it's online, you have to master it. And then you have to be strategic about your brick and mortar. You can't just go to any brick and mortar. You have to define it. Is it the mom and pop stores, or is it more national brands? And you need to make sure you have the right margin. Not every product has enough margin in it to play in that space. So you don't want to sacrifice a lot of margin and just go into a store just to be in the store. That's not going to work. So just be very strategic about who you want to partner with. It has to be someone who's aligned with you. And you're better off just sticking to one brick and mortar retailer that will help you grow than being in 5 that really don't care about you and bring you in and out in a couple of months.
Mark Green from My Silver Boots. I'm curious about when you knew that, the day that you knew, this is viable, one, and how do you keep your daily motivation and people inspired within your organizations?
For us, we didn't know it was going to be viable. We never made shoes before, didn't know how to make shoes. I sold a motorcycle and a couple guns, and I bought enough money. I had enough money to make tooling and prototypes in China, got all of our stuff ready, and then I bought, once I thought they were good enough, I sold another motorcycle and bought a couple hundred pair of flip-flops to go in duffel bags, and we walked down to a trade show, and we went to SHOT Show in Las Vegas and Outdoor Retailer in Salt Lake City, literally with a duffel bag full of flip-flops, and I walked around and I showed them to all the bloggers that I just thought would think our stuff was interesting. They snapped photos of it, drove them right to our website, and people started buying. That was it. It's a viable product. And then, very similar to Dan, we almost ran our business into the ground about a dozen times, and we kept, snatching, victory from the jaws of defeat, and we just kept going. So it just turns out to be a viable product. Yeah.
I think for me, when I started Bottle Breacher, my goal was to make $500 additional a month. I was still active duty in the military, just for like a date night or whatever. And within 6 months, we were doing $7,500 a month out of that one-car garage, and that blew me away. I never thought we'd even really get there. And then right about that time, I too sold my motorcycle, which still haunts me to this day. But I bought our first laser engraver, and within a month and a half, our sales went from $7,500 a month to $22,000 a month. And so that was the turning point for me. I was like, I know I'm not a smart guy. I'm not a business mind, but I know that this type of stuff just doesn't happen every day. And so that's when I got really courageous, and I told my wife, babe, we're going to sell bottle openers when I get out of the military.
I think the big thing is that you're going to have mistakes along the way, and that's okay. That's how you learn. I think if we had the money up front, we would have put it in all the wrong places, and we needed those steps to get there. We also tried to get an engraver. I sent 3 computers to India once to get an engraver. We never saw the engraver. So it's just, you're going to do things that, to take steps. But I think the big thing is having the end goal of where you want to be and not making excuses about, well, I'm not there today. It's one step at a time every way.
The second question I think is just as important is, it's the daily motivation. And I know some of you kind of shared some insights as to the why and how that motivates. But when you get up in the morning and you're tired because yesterday was difficult, or the curtains are burning, or some supply chain issues happening, what do what's that smile you put on your face? What are you saying? How are you motivating the troops to get up and do it for another day?
Well, I don't think you can wait, until it's all falling down. I think you have to take time to celebrate the wins. Like when we, made the Inc. 500 list, Lisa Z said, stop, everybody's getting on a Zoom call, we're buying everybody Starbucks gift cards, and we're going to celebrate for like 15 minutes, and we're going to go back to work. And that's what we did. And I think as long as you can build in time every day to celebrate the wins, celebrate your team, every time you get something exciting from a customer who's telling you how this is the first time that they've enjoyed being a military spouse. They're so proud of the brand, so proud to be a part of it. I'm looking at you. I think that's you share that with your team, and you don't let it just stop at the customer service door. You have to take some time and read those emails and to your team and take time to celebrate.
Awesome.
Hi, for Cameron and Lisa. Do you have any reoccurring issues employing military spouses, and if so, how do you address them?
They move a lot. Yes.
Okay.
And Lisa can talk a lot more about this than I can because it's her wheelhouse. But
yeah, I think when you're trying to run a business that's 75% military spouse employed, when they move, it brings a lot of administrative problems to the company, whether it's sales tax nexus, income tax nexus, taxes. They're kind of like the bane of every business owner's. But so what we're trying to do at our Riveter is encourage administration to help with certain aspects of that. And it's great that large companies are hiring military spouses and veterans. My husband's one of them at Amazon now. But what we think we can really move the needle on in military spouse unemployment is encouraging more small businesses to hire military spouses. And it works really, it's a phenomenal way to have individuals that are educated, driven, resilient on our team that just didn't have opportunity to have a career. And so we built that into our business model.
Awesome. Well, I believe that's all the time we have for questions for today. Will you be available later to answer questions? Or if not, it was a wonderful discussion. So thank you so much to the Shark Tank panel and for all of your time. So thank you.